Welcome the learner. I want you to imagine that it is negative 38 degrees outside.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's beyond cold.
Right. It is so brutally cold that the mercury in your thermometer hasn't just dropped. I mean, it has physically frozen solid into this little metallic rock.
Just completely frozen.
Yeah. Now imagine putting on a heavy wool coat, strapping a pair of massive wooden snowshoes to your boots,
Mm.
and walking out your front door into the pitch black wilderness.
With no flashlights or anything?
Nothing, no roads, just endless, dense forest. And you're doing this simply because someone miles away is waiting for the mail.
And they're not just waiting for like a catalog or a postcard. In that kind of environment, they're waiting for proof that the rest of the world still exists.
Exactly. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are jumping into a fascinating piece of history sourced from an excerpt of Echoes of the Alpine, specifically episode 34.
It's such a great source.
It really is. It details this almost mythical historical figure known as the Midnight Mail Runner of the Adirondacks. So our mission today is to explore what human connection and community truly meant in the late 1800s and early 1900s.
Right. An era long before, paved roads or instant communication.
Or checking a delivery map on your phone to see where your package is.
Yeah, it's a remarkable piece of source material because it forces this complete recalibration of what we consider to be, well, effort.
Oh, absolutely.
We live in a world designed to remove physical friction from our lives. But this story, it strips away all that modern infrastructure. It leaves us with just human endurance, the elements, and the absolute necessity of connection.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because to really grasp what this mail runner was doing, you have to leave your heated room and your Wi-Fi totally behind.
You really do.
We need to talk about the physical reality of the early Adirondacks. Like, when we say delivering mail in the snow, I think a lot of people picture a modern postal worker in a slightly thicker jacket walking down a plowed suburban sidewalk.
Right, maybe slipping on a little patch of ice.
Exactly. But what are we actually talking about here?
We are talking about untouched, rugged wilderness. I mean, the Adirondack Mountains are formidable even today, right? You've got steep elevations and incredibly dense forests.
Oh, yeah.
But in the 19th century, before widespread road networks or mechanized snow removal, they were practically a fortress of geography. The Midnight Mail Runner's route covered dozens of miles of this terrain, completely off the grid.
Dozens of miles. That's just...
In the dead of winter. And he was doing this on traditional wooden snowshoes.
Which I have to assume are very different from the lightweight, high-tech aluminum gear you'd buy at a sporting goods store today, right?
Oh, drastically different. Traditional 19th century snowshoes were often made of bent ash wood and laced with raw animal hide, usually caribou or moose gut.
Wow.
And they were massive, like sometimes 3 to 4 feet long.
Wait, 4 feet long?
Yeah.
How do you even walk in those without constantly tripping over your own feet?
Well, you have to completely change your biomechanics. You can't just walk normally. You have to swing your leg out and around in this wide arc.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. But the reason they were so large comes down to surface area and physics. In deep, powdery Adirondack snow, a modern compact snowshoe would just sink right to the bottom.
Oh, sure.
The massive wooden frames distributed the runner's body weight, plus the weight of a heavy leather mail bag over a huge area. This allowed him to essentially float on top of the snowpack.
I'm just picturing the sheer physical exhaustion of that. You're swinging heavy, snow-caked wooden frames in wide arcs, carrying a leather bag for dozens of miles.
The caloric output is staggering. I mean, you are burning thousands of calories just to complete a single route.
Unbelievable.
And it's not just the weight of the snowshoes. Traditional gut lacing would sometimes freeze or collect ice, which makes every step heavier. Plus, you are constantly breaking trail.
Right, because there's no path.
Exactly. You're compressing fresh snow with every single step.
That sounds physically punishing. I will openly admit, I get visibly annoyed when I check my phone and see an online delivery is delayed by a single day.
We all do.
I'll look out the window at a mild drizzle and think, the entire global supply chain has failed me. Meanwhile, this runner is burning a week's worth of calories dragging wooden planks through a blizzard.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast.
And the source mentions he was also navigating around thin ice and wolves. How do you even prepare for that?
What's fascinating here is the concept the source refers to as Adirondack grit.
Adirondack grit. I like that.
Yeah, it wasn't just about raw muscle or like cardiovascular health. It was this highly specialized, hyper-local intelligence.
What do you mean by that?
Well, to survive that route, you couldn't just muscle your way through the woods. You had to read the landscape like a language.
But in the pitch black of a winter night, how do you read anything? If you can't see your own hand in front of your face, how do you spot thin ice on a frozen lake?
You rely on secondary environmental cues and an encyclopedic memory of the topography. A seasoned runner would know exactly where underwater springs or thermal vents were located.
Because those don't freeze.
Exactly. Those areas create currents that prevent the surface from freezing completely solid. They would navigate by the silhouette of the tree line against the stars or by feeling subtle shifts in the wind that indicate a drop in elevation.
It's like trying to navigate a minefield in the dark, but the mines are thermal vents and freezing water.
That is a perfect way to put it. And as for wolves, it wasn't a matter of outrunning them. It was about understanding predator behavior.
You can't outrun a wolf on 4-foot snowshoes anyway.
Right, no chance. A runner had to know how to read the tension in the environment, notice the sudden absence of smaller wildlife, or use the wind direction to avoid broadcasting their scent.
Wow.
Adirondack grit is this perfect marriage of relentless physical endurance and a profound, intimate understanding of a very dangerous ecosystem.
So he wasn't fighting the mountains. He had to perfectly synchronize with them just to survive the commute.
Yes, exactly.
But why do it? I mean, what could possibly be so important that you willingly walk into a freezing, wolf-filled minefield every single week?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the drive to push through those physical dangers was intrinsically linked to the immense, immeasurable value of what he was carrying. He wasn't out there for the thrill of extreme sports.
Right, the mail itself. Which is a funny concept to me because today, the vast majority of my mail goes straight into the recycling bin.
Oh, same here.
It's flyers for local pizza places or credit card offers. But for a pioneer family or a remote logging camp in the Adirondacks back then, what did a knock on the door in the middle of the night actually mean?
It meant survival. The source material outlines that these deliveries contain news from the outside world, yes, but crucially, they contained essential supplies.
Like what kind of supplies?
We're talking basic medical treatments, specific tools, or mechanical parts. Think about a cast iron wood stove.
If a crucial valve or pipe on your stove cracked in January, you couldn't just turn up a thermostat or plug in a space heater. You were in an immediate lethal survival situation.
Because the house would just freeze.
Within hours, the mail runner was bringing the exact part you needed to not freeze to death in your sleep.
That completely changes the stakes. That leather bag wasn't holding paper. It was holding the physical tools required to keep these people alive.
Literally alive, yes.
But even beyond the physical supplies, I keep thinking about the mental toll on the people waiting. In our era of hyperconnectivity, can we even comprehend the psychology of waiting weeks for a single visitor?
It's incredibly difficult for the modern brain to grasp. I mean, we live in a constant stream of digital validation. If someone doesn't text back in an hour, we feel this micro pang of anxiety.
Oh, absolutely.
But the kind of waiting happening in those isolated cabins, we have to look at extreme modern analogs to even come close to understanding it.
Like what's the modern equivalent of that kind of isolation?
The closest psychological equivalents today would be researchers stationed in Antarctica over the winter, or astronauts.
Really? It was that extreme?
Oh, definitely. Humans are obligate social creatures. Our nervous systems are literally wired to co-regulate with other humans. When you are subjected to profound isolation, essentially sensory deprivation, paired with the constant low-level threat of a harsh winter environment, your mental health begins to fracture.
Because there's no hum of electricity, no cars driving by, just deafening silence and the howling of the wind.
Exactly.
I imagine you would start feeling entirely forgotten, like you've just fallen off the edge of the earth.
You experience a deep existential vulnerability, and that is why the runner was so much more than a delivery person.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The anticipation of that knock on the door, the knowledge that someone out there was willing to fight through a blizzard to reach them, served as a psychological anchor. It prevented complete mental collapse. The runner was the physical embodiment of the fact that they were still part of the human race.
So it wasn't just about getting a letter from an ant. The runner himself was the medicine.
Beautifully said, yes.
His sheer presence proved they hadn't been abandoned. But the true measure of a lifeline like that isn't tested on a mild, sunny afternoon. It's tested when the environment pushes back so hard that, theoretically, the lifeline should snap.
Which brings us to the most extreme example of this dedication.
Yes, let's look at the climax of this runner's legend from the source text. There was a winter night where the temperature plummeted so drastically that the mercury in the thermometer froze solid.
Just completely froze.
You mentioned earlier that mercury freezes at roughly minus 38 degrees Fahrenheit. That's minus 38.8 degrees Celsius. I complain when it's 30 degrees above zero.
Most people do.
What happens biologically to a human being at negative 38?
The physiological reality of minus 38 degrees is terrifying. At that temperature, the ambient moisture in your eyes can actually start to freeze.
Oh my God.
The air is so cold that taking a deep breath damages your lung tissue, and every time you exhale, you are losing a massive amount of core body heat. Your body goes into extreme triage mode.
Triage mode.
Yeah, it violently constricts the blood vessels in your extremities to keep your vital organs warm. Exposed skin will develop frostbite in a matter of minutes.
And I imagine the clothing they had wasn't exactly modern Gore-Tex.
Not at all. They wore heavy wool, animal furs, and leather. The primary danger with that gear is moisture management.
Because of the sweat.
Exactly. If you exert yourself by walking in deep snow and start to sweat, that moisture gets trapped in the wool. The moment you stop moving to rest, that trapped sweat freezes into a sheet of ice against your skin.
That is horrifying.
You are walking a razor-thin thermoregulation tightrope. Too slow, and you freeze from the ambient air. Too fast, you sweat, and you freeze from the inside out.
So a single mistake, like dropping a glove in the dark or twisting an ankle, that's a death sentence. You don't just tough out a mistake at minus 38. You go to sleep and you don't wake up.
And yet, knowing all of this, the source says the runner looked at the frozen thermometer, bundled up, and decided to make his route anyway.
That is insane.
The sheer willpower required to step out of a heated cabin into lethal darkness is staggering.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because you'd think the story would just be about him battling this terrifying cold, gritting his teeth in agony.
All right. Yeah.
But it's his reflection on that exact night that stopped me in my tracks. He later said that the stars were so bright, it felt like the mountains were watching over him.
It's a stunning piece of poetic reflection.
But I have to play the skeptic for a second here.
Sure.
If I am out in negative 28 degrees, my eyelashes are freezing together, and my sweat is turning into ice, I am not feeling spiritual. I am feeling pure, unadulterated terror.
That's a fair reaction.
Is that, quote, just a romanticized historical myth, or is there real psychology behind finding comfort in an environment that is actively trying to kill you?
It's a very perceptive question, and it sounds romanticized, but it actually aligns perfectly with the psychology of extreme survival.
Really?
Yeah, we see this exact phenomenon in modern accounts from high-altitude mountaineers and polar explorers. When you are thrust into an environment that is so vast, so indifferent, and so completely outside your control, the human mind struggles to process that level of existential dread.
Because if you panic, your heart rate spikes, you sweat, you make mistakes, and you die.
Exactly. Panic is deadly. So, as a highly evolved survival mechanism, the brain often reframes the environment. Instead of perceiving the vast frozen landscape as a hostile void, it anthropomorphizes it.
Oh, I see.
The immense silence becomes a companion. The towering, indifferent mountains become guardians. It's a subconscious psychological adaptation to stave off terror.
He felt safe because his brain needed to feel safe to keep his legs moving forward.
Wow. So his mind essentially turned the ultimate threat into a protector just to survive the night.
Yeah, precisely.
He transcended the physical agony of the cold by connecting with the sheer, terrifying scale of the universe above him. He found comfort in the exact thing that made him so small. And this willingness to endure the unimaginable and to find meaning within it while performing a brutal physical task for others, well, that didn't just stay a personal quirk of one man. That ethos laid the foundation for the entire regional culture of the Adirondacks.
The source material makes a really strong case for this. It emphasizes that stories like the Midnight Mail Runner are the exact reason why the Adirondacks developed such an incredibly resilient sense of community.
It makes complete sense if you view it through the lens of generational culture. A community built on the shared memory of mutual reliance, where your ancestors survived only because a neighbor risked their life to bring them a vital supply, is fundamentally different from a community built around modern convenience.
That makes total sense.
It breeds a deep generational respect for looking out for one another.
The contrast the text points out is so stark. Today, we have paved roads, GPS routing, delivery trucks with heated cabs. We don't have guys on wooden skis fighting off timber wolves. But the text mentions specific places where you can still go to feel that history. It talks about the old trails near North Creek and Minerva.
Oh, those are beautiful areas.
Yeah, it points out that if you visit the area, perhaps staying at a historical anchor like the Alpine Homestead mentioned in the source, you can still strap on snowshoes and walk those exact same routes today.
Which is a brilliant exercise in historical empathy. When you step onto a trail in North Creek in the dead of winter, the sun dips below the tree line, and you feel that immediate, sharp bite of the wind.
You feel it in your bones.
You really do. And the abstraction vanishes. The romantic myth strips away, and you realize in a very visceral, physical way exactly what that runner endured.
So what does this all mean? We've gone through the brutal cold, the frozen mercury, the physics of massive wooden snowshoes. How does knowing this history actually change our perspective on our lives today?
I think it reveals a tough, somewhat uncomfortable truth about modern society, which is that convenience has commodified connection.
Oh, hold on. Commodification of connection. Say more about that.
Well, think about the mechanics of communication in the 1890s. The value of a message was directly proportional to the physical friction required to deliver it. A single letter meant someone had bled, sweat, and frozen to get it into your hands.
Yeah.
Because the physical cost of delivery was so high, the emotional weight of the message was immense. Today, communication costs 0 calories. It is entirely frictionless. You press a button, and a blue bubble appears across the globe.
And because it costs absolutely nothing to send, the message often carries 0 emotional weight.
Precisely. We are currently drowning in communication, but we are starving for actual connection. We get 100 emails a day and feel nothing but fatigue.
I feel that every morning.
Right. But back then, 1 letter every 2 months was enough to sustain a family's sanity. It wasn't about the volume of communication, it was about the profound sacrifice required to make the connection happen in the first place.
That is a massive realization. I don't think I will ever look at my mail carrier or, honestly, my own text messages the same way again. They are carrying the torch of that snowshoe runner, but the medium has changed so much.
This raises an important question, as the source text suggests. Does the spirit of the Midnight Mail Runner still exist today?
What do you think?
The text argues it does, but it has evolved. It lives on in the people who choose to embrace friction for the sake of others and their communities.
The people who willingly take the hard path.
Exactly. It's no longer about braving wolves or minus 38-degree weather to deliver a literal letter. It's about the intention. In a world that constantly sells us convenience and pushes us toward the easiest, fastest, most detached way of interacting, choosing to inconvenience yourself to truly help a neighbor is a radical act.
It really is.
It is the modern manifestation of Adirondack grit.
We have traced such an incredible journey today. From understanding the sheer biomechanical nightmare of hiking dozens of miles in deep snow to the psychological lifeline those letters provided to isolated cabins.
It's a heavy topic, but a beautiful one.
It is. We've looked at the brutal physiological realities of facing down frozen mercury and how the human mind reframes terror into spiritual comfort just to survive. It is a story of how the harshest environment on Earth forced humans to forge the deepest possible connections.
And it proves that the most meaningful things we experience in this life are rarely the things that come easily. Connection is not free.
So we want to leave you, the learner, with a challenge and a thought to mull over today. Think about your own life. Think about a time when someone went completely out of their way, taking on real inconvenience or hardship just to deliver something important to you, or to be there when you felt totally isolated and cut off from the world. Who is your midnight mail runner?
And let's take that a step further. We possess the technology to reach anyone on Earth in a fraction of a second, yet loneliness is a documented modern epidemic.
Yeah, that irony is hard to ignore.
If an isolated pioneer family found their deepest, most sustaining sense of community through a single half-frozen visitor emerging from the dark in the dead of night, what is the modern equivalent of that midnight knock on the door? What is the rare, high-effort connection that truly sustains you through your own personal winters?
Because maybe the cure for our modern isolation doesn't come from a perfectly clean, frictionless blue bubble on a screen. Maybe it comes from finding the willingness to walk through the metaphorical snow for someone else.